Welcome to the final edit in the editing course, which is a bright white and orange vibe. Honestly, I've never personally had this on my page, but I've been recently getting like a serious temptation to start it, and by the time you're watching this personally, I might have this as the edit on my page because I think it's what I'm gonna do next, or the rustic one. I don't really know. Honestly, I love them all. But this is a really cool edit in my opinion. Obviously, that's a very opinionated statement, but here's two examples of it right here so you guys can get a clear idea of what I'm even talking about. But I just think it's such a fresh, like cozy, homey, like modern, but cozy vibe, and I just love it, and it's pretty easy to do. There are some specifics that are very important, but overall it's a pretty easy edit to do as long as you have an environment that supports it. So I will talk about that first. In regards to your environment, first off, in regards to like the external environment, this is gonna be awesome if it's fall. Now this can work if it's spring, it can work amazing if it's summer, it can honestly be amazing in spring and summer. It can also work if it's winter, as long as you have an internal, like your living space environment that supports it. But I just think it's perfect for fall because there's already so much orange going on with like pumpkins, decorations, sweaters, like a pumpkin latte, you know, you get it. There's just a lot of orange in the fall. So I think that one, it's a lot easier to do it in the fall because there's naturally so much orange around. But I also just think it's like that cozy, like modern vibe for fall. So what I'm getting at is that you do need orange in your environment. So in an external sense, outside of your home, a brick wall would be really, really good because it gives you like that rusticy, rough sort of feel to it, you know what I mean? But you can pull a little bit of orange out of it as well, usually depending on the color of brick, but it's also super basic, so it's not gonna take away from you. Another idea would just be like a white wall or a black wall if you're going for like more of like a shadowed black version of this, which I don't even have an example of, but if you can picture that and you want to do it, by all means you can stand in front of a black wall as well. But overall, white wall, brick wall, those are going to be your two best options, or even like a cream or tan wall, or honestly even a yellow wall, because you could pull orange out of that and then like brighten it or darken it or do whatever you want with that color. So white, brick, yellow, or orange. That's some of the stuff to keep in mind in an external sense. One thing you definitely want to be aware of with this edit is that you don't want a ton of color. So you don't want to be in front of like crazy murals. You don't want to be around green unless you want like a desaturated green or a bright green for that sake, whatever you want as an accent color. You just don't typically want a ton of extra color in this unless you're like planning to do that. Like if you always want to get it with green in it, then do that. But if it's not going to be consistent, then I wouldn't really recommend to do it. So I would try to pretty much keep the backgrounds of like lifestyle photography, aka of you, super basic. And then if it's in your apartment, one thing that's going to be super helpful is just to have like white walls or tan walls. Wooden floors are good. Anything with brick is good. Anything with like wooden cabinets could be really good. White cabinets would also be good, or like white tile flooring, white marble counters, or it doesn't have to be marble, but like that look, you know what I mean? What you don't want though, same thing as outside, is a ton of color. So like a blue wall isn't really going to be very good. If you just have like a ton of random color in your environment, it's not really gonna work. It's more of a minimal edit. Like as you can see, I'll show you guys the two examples again right here. It's very just like white, simple, bright, and kind of just plain. Now granted, you can desaturate all the other colors that could potentially get into your photo from like the background and stuff, but if you do that too much, it's gonna be super obvious, so it's better to just have more of like a neutral environment to start with. So again, like I've said in other videos, that's why I tailor a lot of my attire and then also a lot of my decor around being a neutral color. That way, anytime I want to change my like edit and my theme, I can easily do it, and I already have like the environment and clothing to support it, because as you guys now know, neutral pretty much goes with everything. Just a little halfway recap here. Your external environment, stand in front of white, brick, tan, or yellow. You can also do orange, of course. Try to stay away from a ton of extra color. And then in regards to your internal environment, keep your decor very neutral colored, whites and blacks, grays and browns, things like that. And if you're ever like apartment hunting or something like that, which is seriously like you have to take that kind of stuff into consideration with like the theme that you're going for, honestly, because it could be like a life-changing thing if you have a theme. I know that sounds like super extreme, but I'm not kidding. You're not gonna want like a super dark kitchen if you're gonna be doing a lot of photos in the kitchen of you and you want this bright white theme. You know, you're gonna obviously want a bright kitchen. If you're gonna be doing more stuff in like your living room, for example, and your living room is bright, then go for it. That would obviously work really well. So you just want a neutral environment for this, and then white walls, tan walls, cream walls are gonna be best because you can always take a picture in front of a wall. So just at least having that and having a spot near a window with a basic colored wall, like literally just like this, if I was like over there a little bit more, is very suitable for this, because then you at least always have one spot at minimum that you can get a good photo. But moving on to attire, this is very similar to the bright white teal beach edit, but you pretty much just want to wear whites, creams, the light jean again works really well for this, or like orange or yellow, because again, yellow you can pull orange out of and then brighten it, desaturate it, or increase the saturation. Orange you can always brighten or like take down a little bit. The jean you can make really white and kind of like desaturate it. It just looks like very modern and cozy. You guys know what I mean, like the bright light jean. So if you're standing in front of a white wall or a cream wall, maybe wear an orange sweater, or maybe wear an orange sweater with your light ripped jeans. If you're standing in front of an orange wall, maybe wear a cream sweater with light ripped jeans or with white jeans, or wear cream in front of white, or wear orange in front of orange. It doesn't really matter. The best example that I can give you guys over all of this edit is this girl right here. Her name is Alexa Jean Brown. I followed her like years and years and years ago, and she's like huge now, but she really shows the perfect example of this edit. So you could of course get a ton of ideas from her of like how to kind of balance the oranges and the whites in the photo. Overall, this is a very non-colorful photo. You don't want a ton of color in it. If you're doing food photography, it's going to be a little bit challenging, but you could totally do it. I would just focus on like desaturating the colors a lot so that it doesn't just like randomly, like your page doesn't have a huge random pop of a ton of color. You know, like if you have a salad, desaturate the greens. If you have a smoothie bowl, desaturate like the pinks or the blues or whatever it is, and that would definitely blend in best. But overall, it's not the friendliest food photography edit. It would also work really well though for food photography if you're doing a lot of like neutral colored food photography, so like brownies, cookies, honestly just like a lot of like chocolate baked kind of stuff, pumpkin stuff, carrot cake stuff, things like that that are more neutral colored, or orange. And just like the bright white teal beach edit, you want this to be bright, so the optimal time to take these photos is going to be midday, not so much in the morning, not so much at night, unless you want that orangey vibe to it, like the natural orangey vibe to it from like the sunrise or the sunset. Otherwise, you're gonna wanna definitely take it midday so that you can really get a bright photo and like pull the whites through it as best as possible. But without further ado, I'm gonna show you guys the tutorial of how to go from this to this in the matter of a couple minutes. Of course, I'll be explaining how I do it throughout the video, and I will see you at the end. Alright, so welcome to the bright white and orange edit. Overall, this is a very simple edit to do because really all we're going to be focusing on is drowning out the extra colors and really pulling the oranges and the whites out of the photo. So first, I'm going to begin by just toggling and messing with the lighting a little bit. I don't do anything too drastic at the beginning because you can always go back and do more drastic changes at the end after you change the color, but I do always start in the lighting section. So I increase the exposure to just brighten the whole photo. I increase the contrast to pull the whites out a little, increase the highlights a little to pull the whites out a little. Shadows I also usually like to actually pull up in this photo so that way there's not as much darkness. If you're going for more of a darker vibe, then you could totally keep those down, but then I also just pull up the whites and usually leave the blacks pretty centered at the beginning. So then I'm going to move into the colors, and I'm really going to focus on messing with the oranges and the yellow in this, but first I'm going to drown out the other colors. So first I'm just drowning out the darker blue by completely taking the saturation down and then increasing the luminance, aka increasing the brightness. I feel like that really helps to brighten those areas that were a color that we don't want, and it also keeps it desaturated. Then I'm going to head over to green, and I'm at least going to make that a very cool green so that if any does come through, it's a cool green. Desaturate it and again brighten it all the way to make it very white and bright. And then this is where it's going to get interesting. I'm moving on to orange, so I'm just going to increase the saturation a little. Typically this edit is a little bit over saturated with the orange. You don't have to do that. You could totally keep it a little less saturated, but I just went with this slightly oversaturated orange, and you'll see me edit that a little bit more then. But then I'm going to just kind of look at it for a minute and see what I want to do with it. Go into the yellow and then make the yellow more orange. So if you wanted to keep it a yellow tint, you totally could, but I definitely would recommend making the yellow completely orange as well. And then you can kind of mess with the saturation and the brightness of the yellow, which is now orange, when you're in that situation, and you can just base that on your photo. And then I'm just checking for red here. If there was a lot of red, I might have increased the saturation just a little for like my lip color and stuff like that. Sometimes when you mess with the orange and yellow a lot, you can pull out the pigmentation in your lips. So then you might have to increase the red for the increase the saturation of red. But here I'm just moving on to the effects. So I'm bumping the clarity a little to really pull out the whites and just give the whole entire photo more texture and detail. And then I'm also checking to see if I want to dehaze it by increasing it or decreasing it. This is something that I actually didn't touch because this is going to totally be based on what you guys would want to do. If you want it brighter, decrease the dehaze. If you want it a little bit more darker, saturated, more shadows, etc., you'd want to increase the dehaze. So then I also just sharpened it, and now I am going into the selective spot. I'm going to first just brighten both sides by using the square tool. I don't even know what it's called, like I always say, but I'm just going to brighten both sides by dragging it off of the side and then just increasing the exposure. That's just going to brighten the photo overall. If that had color in it, I would also decrease the saturation as well, but I'm pretty sure all I did here was just increase the exposure a little to really pull those whites out of the side. And then I'm going to go back into selective and choose the coloring tool, and I'm going to just color in where I see some green and yellow in the back there. Obviously, if you wanted green to be an accent color or something like that, you could have not desaturated it so much and not brightened it as much, and you could have kept that there, or any color for that matter that you're trying to use as an accent color. But I personally did not want an accent color, so I just went in, I'm coloring it, and then I'm going to desaturate it. My phone was acting up a little, so if anything is kind of glitchy here, it's because I have 60,000 photos on my phone right now, and it's starting to go a little bit slow. Now that everything is colored in, I'm just going to go in and decrease the saturation where I colored it in, and you will see that the color completely disappeared. It's like magic or something like that. But then I'm also going to increase the whites a little bit, so that way where there was color, it's now going to be a little bit brighter and a little bit whiter, which is what we want. We want it to be very bright and white. So there you guys have the full edit. At this point, sometimes I'll go back in like I'm doing right now and mess with the overall lighting a little bit, maybe increase, decrease the exposure, maybe pull the shadows up and down, maybe pull the blacks up and down. But overall, that is the edit. And like I said at the beginning, this is a very simple edit because you don't have to mess with too much. Your main focus is really just to get rid of extra color and focus on keeping the orange looking like a very natural orange, and then really pulling the whites out. So, as always, if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me, but this is the before and after. I hope that you enjoyed this edit. Alright, so there is the bright white and orange edit. Of course, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I think that this is an amazing, amazing edit. I think it's just so cozy and modern, like I said at the beginning, and it works perfectly if you have dark hair or light hair, so this isn't necessarily one of those edits like that could be tailored better to a certain hair color. I think that this honestly looks amazing no matter what. But I thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for joining this course, and I would appreciate your feedback so much because this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I put a little form down below, and it would mean the world to me if you just filled it out so that I can get your personal feedback and then hopefully feature some of your feedback as a testimonial to move forward in the future with more stuff like this. But seriously, I hope that this helped you so much. I'm always here for you to answer your questions, and I would love to see your edits and your page, etc. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. Feel free to send me your Instagram handle so that we can stay in closer touch with each other, and I can, you know, kind of pay attention to what you're doing with your page. And then I could even send you tips or give you like little random bits of advice as I see your photos. But without further ado, this is the end. So like I said, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Please leave a review down below. It would mean the absolute world to me, and I thank you guys so much in advance for that. But without further ado, this is goodbye. See ya!